welcome to Tub Talks with Damon. My special guest on location in Mérida, Mexico is Jeremy Proctor, the owner, the proprietor of this gorgeous, gorgeous place that I'm recording from called El Pueblo in Mérida, Mexico. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time.
You bet.
I know you're running around here making everybody comfortable, trying to do everything you can to make everyone happy, but I'm glad you took some time to hang out with me.
You bet.
Before we get to talking about this gorgeous, gorgeous resort, I want to ask you, Jeremy, what do you like most about your body?
Oh, well, let's just say I'm glad I was allowed to keep all that I arrived with.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
I am uncut.
Okay, great,
Cuts me a foreskin.
great, and you're glad.
Love it.
Good, good. Did you ever feel like ashamed, or did anyone ever try to make you feel not good about it?
To the contrary,
Yeah.
it's been only on the plus side.
Yeah, it's so interesting because a lot of men have very strong feelings on either side of it. And you know, I know, like in America anyway, some men who are uncut are sometimes tried to be made to feel shameful about it. And I'm glad
Not
to hear
I.
that was not the case for you.
No.
Okay. Are you comfortable saying your age or age range?
I am 57.
All right. Oh, great. Okay. So we are here this week. I'm with a group of people, gay men, who are here for a workshop called Gay Men Aging Gracefully. And Jeremy has been our wonderful host here this whole time, having conversations with people from all around the U.S. and Canada, talking about this idea of aging up. What does aging gracefully mean to you?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. So, one of the main focuses of El Pueblo has always been community, and the idea of community, in fact, is built into the name. El Pueblo can mean a village, but it can mean something much grander, a connected population. So in the Mexican Constitution, they refer to El Pueblo Mexicano. And as we were setting this place up, we were doing research, and my partner does work in defined benefits and healthcare, and we're really confronted by what's termed the healthcare, the loneliness crisis in the United States, and how community is connected to longevity. One doesn't go without the other. And a lot of men particularly find themselves in that age group and they don't have anyone. They find themselves in this void. And things can happen, like you fall or you have a mild stroke or something, and if there's not somebody there expecting you at the breakfast table, or you just kind of give up, you know. So that's a roundabout way of answering your question, but what's really important to us is that the people who come here feel connected in some way or other to community, something more than themselves. And so you're doing it with your workshop, and we're kind of doing it with the venue.
Wow. So El Pueblo, where we are today, was established with the intention of creating space for gay men.
Men was the original thing. I really only wanted to say men. As anybody who sets up a business nowadays knows, you have to condition things to search engine optimization and to different things. And gay was a marketing niche, whereas men's was just kind of invisible. So we're deferring to that. I kind of would like to see people who are somewhere else on that spectrum, but of men's space for sure. And of course, when you define a men's space, a lot of those people are going to be gay or identified as gay anyway,
Okay.
so that's fine.
So would it be fair to say like an LGBTQ space that's or for anybody?
GTBQ. Yeah,
Okay,
I think we should say at this point a gay men's community, because it is important enough. And what we found, we're collaborating with a wonderful tour operator across the street named, you met yourself, Ricardo Contreras, and he has said that there are a lot of men who are in fact looking for and searching gay-owned, gay destinations, and we are to date the only one in Mérida, and there are some in Puerto Vallarta, there's some in Playa del Carmen, there's something in Resort Mexico, but there's nothing yet here. And I think a lot of people want to feel that they can be their authentic selves when they're vacationing or when they're in a workshop, whatever. They don't have to perform, they don't have to be circumspect about who they're talking to or how they talk or whatever. So
that's so
what we
important.
want to do.
So let's talk about Mérida. Why Mérida, and what is happening here? Why was this important to create this space here of all places?
Well, Mérida is not Resort Mexico. It's a big destination now for people within Mexico and outside Mexico. A lot of people who are living in Mexico or who are Mexican come here. setting up them. It's a very safe city. Obviously, the weather is a big attraction, but it's a real city. It's not Resort Mexico. It's not just the beach. You're not in an enclosure the whole time you're here. And so people, I think anybody who comes here from outside Mexico is going to feel that they have a much more varied experience than they would in a, for lack of a better word, a beach town.
Right.
So that's one way to answer your question. Another thing is just that there is a vibe specific to Yucatan that is really a kind of generosity of spirit. People aren't necessarily able to discern the difference between here and other parts of Mexico, but there is something about being here that is nominally very embracing, very tolerant, gentle. Strangers will tell you good morning and provecho when you're eating in a restaurant. To me, it feels like the social contract is intact here in a way that ceased to be in my country of origin.
The social contract meaning?
Just what you, well, it's sort of attending to the idea of El Pueblo and like feeling like a sense of something bigger than yourself and feeling embraced by a community. I still feel very much an outsider, but I am made to feel very much a part of this community, which is important to me. And maybe it won't be for somebody who's here just a week or two, but I can say that that's part of how to answer your question about why Mérida versus a resort town where you're kind of an economic, I mean, you're something other than necessarily a member of the community. You're a client or you're a visitor or whatever. I think that there's an easier way to integrate yourself as a citizen, albeit of somewhere else, but you can sort of be here and participate as a person who lives here even temporarily. Maybe that's a way to answer your question. I don't feel, I feel like it, you know, there's a lot of buzz around. In fact, it was the Merriam-Webster's word of the year was the word authenticity, or authentic, I think it was. And a lot of people traveling now, it's a big buzzword in travel, generally of seeking out authentic places. And I think that Mérida has that going for it. There's much more level and depth. Cancun didn't exist when we were born. I don't know if you know that. There was nothing there prior to like 1971. So it just sprung up as a resort, and it's all it's ever presumed to be. So Mérida is something like 500 years old now, close to it. And so there's that, all those layers and depth that come with that.
Right. Right. How did you first come here?
Totally by accident. We came here on vacation in Thanksgiving of 2011 with no homework. We bought a house the week we were here. We subsequently bought 3 places adjacent to it and combined them all into one address, which is now El Pueblo. It was all a giant stumble through. We just played the ball as it lies, and here we are.
So 2011, you come to this area that is not widely known by U.S. residents. And it sounds like something spoke to you here. Something grabbed you enough to make you want to buy this place and stay here.
Well, we had kind of idly, my partner Cecil and I, we would go places. We had a sailboat. We would go to Provincetown or St. Croix or places like that, and we would kind of imagine what it would be like to have a guest house in our retirement years. And at that time, it was about 10 years before. But I saw this place and I thought there's really no compelling reason not to do it now. I mean, there was really no reason to get started and have it online by the time we got to retirement age. That was one thing. Another was we had lived in New York sort of to the point where it no longer necessarily served us. I mean, we didn't need to be paying for New York City anymore. And Cecil grew up in rural South Africa in the Orange Free State, and there was something about what we were talking about earlier, that vibe or that social contract and feeling there's no pretension, there's very genial people that would greet you even if you're strangers. Cecil had an occasion where he left a card at an ATM and a man came running 3 blocks after him to put it back in his hand.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, gestures like that.
Not going to get that in New York, probably.
Or just about anywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was that kind of thing that really spoke to him. I spoke Spanish. I studied Spanish in school, so I was eager to keep that ball afloat. And both of us had real health issues connected with the wintertime in New York and the Northeast. Cecil had asthma, and I found some flaps on the floor. I thought he had died a couple of times and stopped breathing. And I would get this sinusitis that was going on for like 2 months and just, really, really awful. So that was an attraction by itself. But also as you age, since we're talking about aging gracefully, we were confronted, I think really I was at least confronted being here by the kind of decisions that you start to make when you get older. The medical infrastructure here was spectacular and accessible.
Let's talk about what is the medical structure.
Well, so We arrived at such a time none of us had pre-existing conditions, so we enrolled for the National Medical Health Scheme, which is collectively known as EAMS, IMSS. It's the Social Security. It's very broad, but it includes a medical provision. Then we're also insured through Cecil's job. Cecil is still working, and we have private healthcare insurance. Now, the private healthcare insurance here is what most people who can afford it get, but it is regulated in such a way that it is not forbiddingly expensive. It's what most people do. So if anything were to happen to us here, we would invoke that. Now, sometimes having national healthcare insurance will help if you need, for example, a very expensive drug, if you have an organ transplant and the medical upkeep of that, anti-rejection drugs or whatever it is. We can't envision what it will be, but we kind of have this belt and braces kind of thing going on. There's lots of medical infrastructure in Mérida. A lot of people come here as medical tourists. They'll come here to get things done. Dental surgeries, for example, that are prohibitively expensive in the United States. People come here. El Pueblo can serve that, right? I mean, we can do that kind of thing too. Yeah, and so there's that. I hate to say this because I grew up in the American West. I grew up in Utah, where you just had views of mountains or down to the ocean in California and things. This place is pancake flat. Well, it happened that in 2013 I had surgery on my spine, so I know what it is to have mobility limitations.
Yeah.
The flatness has become kind of a virtue, whereas
So
before,
that was done here.
yes, I was very, very lucky to have had that done here.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So you're speaking not only of trusting the medical infrastructure, but you've experienced it.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out,
I dove in the deep end. I had surgery on my back. I mean, it was no. I had 2 herniated discs, and I was basically incapacitated by it. I had them pain sciatica for a while, but one week I was coming on a plane from the United States here. I had a cough, and I got this kind of really angry jolt of pain down my leg, and it just got worse. By the time I was done to the end of the week, I could float in the school, but getting to and from it was awful. And so I called my places in the United States that were in network, and I remember I was calling in November, and I was told I could be seen for an intake in April. And I was like, I was thinking, I can't barely string the sentence together, you know. It's like, well, that's all I've got. And here I was in surgery about 3 days later. They did an MRI, and I was on the table, and I have never had pain since.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that was the proof right there. Now, I can't say that this is the same experience everyone will have, but I mean, it was so much different than the experience. I would have had to go with my nerves being kind of crushed for some months, maybe a year. That doesn't get better. So I was very, very lucky and happy to have had it happen here. Cecil, for his part, he was in Miami, and he was about to join me in Mexico City, and he had pain in his gut, and his gallbladder was completely full of stones. And it was not just about it having a stone. It would have killed him in a day, because it was getting, it would go necrotic. And he had this surgery. So he's a man who's done healthcare for people all over the world. That's been his job for a long time. He's a senior executive, and he's going to the hospital thinking, I hope everything is covered. Because I know that the hospitalist, but as the attending physician, is the anesthesiologist. Like, he's worried. And of course, that's what happens in the United States all the time. People worry enough that they don't go, and 50,000 people in the United States or more die every year because they just don't go. They don't have access. So when we had the interview with the surgeon afterward, he's saying, well, you're so lucky to have been here, because we get people medevac in from Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And I said to him, look, doctor, I'm not disparaging your skill. We've had a very good experience here. But the entire time I've been here, I've been wishing we could have been one day later, because it would have been happening in Mexico. And this all would have been, he's worried about cost, even as he's sitting here getting better. Right.
Which in the U.S. is just, that's just the way it's been.
Yeah. And
it
so,
doesn't have to be the way.
right. So the whole paradigm, that's what I mean, I guess also an extension of that social contract thing, where you feel taken care of. You say, we're all in it together. Why should this be expensive? Why should this be prohibitive, right? So yes, Mexico has been very good to us, and we hope to be good to Mexico in return.
That is awesome. That's really good to know. In terms of the amount of gay people coming here, what are the changes you've seen since 2011 when you arrived?
We've always attracted, in terms of the people who come here from the United States and Canada, and to some degree in Europe, most of the people coming here are, as we say, tercera edad. We say like in their, I would say, 60s and up. That's tends to be the demographic that has attracted. Gay people seem to have always been a larger than usual component of that. And I don't really know how to explain that necessarily. It's just a tolerant place. It's a real place, but it's also accessible. But what I've noticed recently is a lot more young people coming because they're doing a lot more nearshoring, and sort of tech has taken a turn to coming to Mexico. So I'm seeing people with strollers. That's actually been. But we actually have enough kind of. Yeah, I mean, there's young couples here now. You know what I mean? So with children. But we have enough mojo as a gay community that we're actually hosting a gay happy hour here, and it's actually we are the venue of the happy hour that was established by a group of people, and there's hundreds of men involved in it. We're going to one actually, I guess it's tomorrow, to a cerveceria down the street. So, and that community feels really good. It feels very mature. It's not a party crowd. It's not people who are just. It's not people getting screwed up on drugs or compulsive behaviors. It feels like we've kind of matriculated out of that, and here we are, and it's a very warm community. So I encourage people to give it a try and check it out.
Yeah, I keep hearing about gay people finding this place, discovering this place, learning how beautiful it is, how warm it is, but the weather in the winters.
Yes,
very warm.
What's the date now? February 16th?
Yes.
Can't do this.
Yes, that we can just sit outside in the wintertime. But also, I have been here a week and have felt completely safe. And I'm always aware of the environment I'm in when I'm traveling, but I mean, this feels like such a very mellow, easygoing kind of place. Someone said it was the most or the second most safest place in Mexico to be in.
Yeah,
and I believe that.
And there's more to that. I don't know what's going on with. I hate to trash the media, but you will hear Mexico talked about only in terms of comestible Mexico or cartel Mexico, and I would say the ratio is about 1 to 2. And you would think, based on how Mexico is reported, that there's just carnage everywhere you go. I can attest that when we come here, both of us have commented on this. We just feel it in our bodies. We just feel this calm come over us.
Yeah.
When we're in Houston, like we go on a walk and the whole block is shattered car glass. People just come one after the other. Accessibly accosted on the street. There's just hundreds of people living without any kind of provision, And it's just something you don't see here. I don't understand the dynamics of why Mexico is thought of or regarded as being more unsafe, but I can attest that wherever we come in Mexico, we feel very, very just comfortable and safe. We let our guard down in a way we don't.
Yeah. So when people come to El Pueblo and consider staying here, if they want to come to Mérida and have a wonderful time and a wonderful vacation and be in a really, really gay positive environment, if they choose to stay here, what do they get? Why would they choose to stay here? What are some of the best? I know what I would say, but I want to hear what you're going to say first.
We're really in the heart of the Historico Centro. So Mérida kind of had this burgeoning period when this fiber called Henequen was what we call sisal was king and became very wealthy very quickly. And then all of these houses that from about a century ago kind of languished for about 70 years. So this is now a historical centro is defined by a national version of a historic preservation society. So we're right in the middle of that. We're one block from this whole restaurant road that connects the Plaza Grande to the Parque La Plancha. All these restaurants. The Paseo de Montejo is right at the foot of us. And I think that's vocation, as like in real estate, is one of the biggest things. You can get everywhere without ever getting into a car here, which is really a big deal for me.
Which I love too. I love being able to walk everywhere.
Yeah, it's probably a lot more diverse than people would actually expect. You can go to a lot of different cultural events very easily from here. You're never stuck in traffic. So that's a really big deal. What would you say, since you say...
I would say I would definitely stay here again in Mérida because, hey, just look around. This place is so gorgeous. You and Cecil are so welcoming. So when you stay here, Jeremy's here to talk to you and help you see what would be the best experience for you. What are you looking for? What do you want? What do you not want? And you help people figure out what's right or what's not.
Yeah, and we have a great collaborator with Ricardo Contreras, who has a whole series of tours. If you want to do a city tour, if you want to go to see the flamingos, if you want to go see Maya ruins, if you want to go on the Tren Maya, which has just been built, he's there for you. So it's a good collaboration.
The rooms are spacious and huge. I love my shower.
Yep.
I have to just describe it. Again, just perfectly centrally located as you described. And it just feels like there is an easy breath to it. I don't know another way to say. Like, I'm a New Yorker and I love New York, as you all know, but there is something to be said for just, I don't know, being able to be outside naked in February and really feeling clean. Feels like very clean, refreshing air.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about the pool since we're here. This is actually a freshwater pool. We've done this engineered it so that there's no chlorine. It's 25 meters long, so you can have a real lap experience here. And some people travel and they can only swim like 2 miles a day or kilometers, I guess this would be. But it's biological filtration, and it's wonderful. It's like a sort of man-made cenote.
Yes, cenote. I love that. I just learned that word, so I love that word. Who would you like to have? Would you like people stopping by? I know you like workshops or conferences or gatherings here. What would be your perfect?
What I found, perhaps later than I would have liked, is that there is a whole specificity to retreats.
Yeah.
And people do retreats and workshops. So one thing I discovered by talking to somebody who has a place like this in Puerto Rico was that it's interesting. It's maybe a little counterintuitive, but the 2-week retreat extends and broadens that idea of community more than having a stable residential community might. Mm-hmm. When you come to a place that you don't live and it's facilitated, you find out parts of yourself that you don't know about very well, or you hide, or something happens and you develop yourself into this person. And I can see people coming back from year to year or seasonally or whatever, and finding that community that actually is bigger or more numerous than we would have if we just had like 7 to 10 people living here, which is actually kind of interesting. And he said that it's, when you live in a place, then you start getting complacent, or you start maybe forming cliques or something. But if you're here in a focused resident workshop kind of environment, from 1 week to 4, something like that, I think you see yourself kind of transforming. And I think that for him, that's what was really special. I asked him because he had a lot of challenges in Puerto Rico with the 2 hurricanes. He had no power for a long time. They pulled his veranda. He has really struggled, and then COVID, right? So one bad, and it's like, so what about it was really important to you? And he said, seeing the transformation of people. He helps facilitate that, and seeing how people change as they go out the door, the different people when they come in. So I think that is where I envision this place going, and feeling better connected, and feeling, like you say, like you can see that change or help facilitate that change in people. So that's part of it.
So that's part of what's going to happen here. If you have guests, is that people from around the world will be able to meet, if they wish to, connect and have community. And really, again, coming back to...
with a kind of focus, more than just tourism. I think so. So to get back to your question, I suspect that that's what will be more important than simply taking the tours. That you come here with some kind of intention, or some kind of, you're after something, right? There may be men's workshops. It's actually interesting to reach out and what I would call cold calling to men who do men's yoga or men's nude yoga. And so many of them coming back and saying, oh, actually, yes, I am looking for a place to do that, to be able to do that outside.
This would be a good place for that.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. And so there is actually more need for that, I think, than I expected. We're awash with guest houses and places to stay. There's no question Mérida is designed to do that. But what distinguishes us, I think, is the thing that we're discussing, which is that we have this very special, tailored kind of experience that I think and that's how retreats work. And what I'm finding, I guess, that there is people who have the conventions built around just retreats, not just about tourism, but about this kind of experience we're describing, and likely just participating in.
And the one I've been here for a week, it's really coming back to the idea that the antidote to loneliness is connection. And that's what's being created here.
Very
that's
important.
What this space fosters. So I hope that people will think about this, or at least look into this, if they're coming here for a retreat or a conference or planning one. I'd encourage anybody who would typically go to Puerto Vallarta or use winter as a verb, if they're doing that in Puerto Vallarta, that they would consider coming to Mérida. and visiting El Pueblo, or at least stopping in and saying hi.
Yeah.
Because it really is, it's less touristy than some of the aforementioned areas. But I also think it's really exciting. I get an exciting vibe from here. I feel like before Puerto Vallarta was excessively touristy, it may have felt like this. And I think the gays are really, really good at creating, festive party spaces and, warmer areas. Puerto Vallarta, Wilton Manors, Palm Springs, but we need more. We need the ability to gather, connect, and be warm and naked outside in a relatively safe space.
And I should mention that
is good.
Mérida has a very robust gay community of its own. They have a lot of places, a lot of social spaces. They have a big gay pride parade. You see people on the paseo holding hand in hand, same-sex couples. It's pretty astonishing. You wouldn't necessarily think that coming to Mexico, and especially a part of Mexico that's kind of, not places like Mexico City or Puerto Vallarta. It does exist, and I hope we can feel like we're part of that as well.
I think you are. You already are. All right, is there anything I haven't asked you that you want people to know about El Pueblo, know about your life, know about the intentions of this gorgeous space we're in?
Well, only want to say that we do have a website.
Yes, so if people want to find out more.
We've worked on it so hard. elpueblomerida.com.
Okay.
And you can find out more. I'm available for questions, and for anybody who has a question we haven't answered, they can certainly get to us that way.
Okay, so that website will be right down below if you're on YouTube. If this is interesting, I hope you'll think about this subject about, again, aging gracefully, aging with connection, and how we're kind of, in a lot of ways, historically inventing the wheel on this. I think as a cohort, as a generation, we're getting older at a time that has never been done this way exactly before. Relative social acceptance, relative legal protections, medical advancement. And I know for a lot of people that unknown road leads to anxiety, trepidation, and fear. But for a lot of people, it leads to a sense of excitement and adventure. And geez, how do we create an experience that makes this moment in history count? And that's why I was so excited to be here and meet you and learn more about why this place was created and what some of the intentions and goals are going to be over these years ahead.
Yeah, and there may be people out there watching who are eager to create that kind of experience, and El Pueblo is a good venue for it, I think. And maybe it's sort of ambient or ambiguous right now what you want to talk about. Maybe there's something just really you want to talk about, or you want someone to talk to about it. I mean, there may be some question that we can't even answer or even think about right now, but to have a place and a venue for it, I think that is exciting to us.
I think so too. And as I think about doing workshops of my own in the future, or I hope if anybody's watching this and thinks about, if I've ever wanted to create a workshop that addresses any kind of wellness issue or gay issue, that this is a really, really great place to do this. And again, anybody's questions for you, they can go to elpueblomerida.com down below and get you. Jeremy, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Oh, thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
All right, everybody, if you'd like this interview, subscribe below, go to El Pueblo Mérida, and stay tuned for another episode of Tough Talks. Thank you.
Hasta luego.